Again, the dignity of this life does not change. And the responsibility of serving both lives, again, remains. So it's always important to keep this basic principle running through each way we face each of these situations. As we said in the very beginning, abortion is never the answer. It is never justifiable. So there are circumstances that impact life. And so we have to address the circumstance. So in this situation, we're dealing with a child that has been diagnosed within the womb with some type of maybe a genetic abnormality, a physical abnormality, whatever may be happening. But the dignity and the life of the child does not change. And so there is great technology today in medicine being able to address some of these issues within the womb and resolve some of those concerns that are there. For those situations that are not able to be addressed directly, within the womb, then we have to keep the same language. That even if we had a staff member here, Colleen, that had a granddaughter, and when the son and the daughter-in-law were pregnant with this particular child, I forget how many children they had at the time, and and so I don't know the number, but in a sense, the doctor, there was a genetic abnormality that was very clear, very discernible. From all the testing, everything was pointed in that direction that the child would not survive after birth. And so obviously, tragically, the doctors were pushing the young couple toward an abortion, a termination of the pregnancy, as they would like to say in the terminology. And of course, the couple said, absolutely not. The reality of our child's disability, does not change our love, does not change the dignity of our child. This is still our child, and we will welcome our child. And whether our child, lives a minute, a half hour, a day, whatever time, she will be welcomed and loved and held and know that she was loved. And this is the response we must give. And that is, the life is a gift. It's precious, always a value that must be protected. And so the narrative is we hear, we don't want them to suffer, or we why don't you can, quote, start over, have another. Like we're talking about, getting a cup of coffee, and went cold. Well, let me just dispose of the coffee and just get a new cup of coffee. Well, we're talking about a human being, not a cup of coffee. We're not talking about a thing. We're talking about someone. Mm-hmm. And so we have to really, again, address the circumstance. And always keep the child's dignity and life and uniqueness and irreplaceability in front of the conversation. And be there for the couple or the woman who may be a single mother in this situation. What is her need? How can we cannot resolve the diagnosis? In some cases, let's also be honest, the diagnosis could be wrong. We've seen that happen also. So here we have to look at all of it. But the starting point is that abortion is never the answer to the situation. The answer is welcome the child, love the child. And as we know from many, many stories with children born with disabilities or difficulties of life, are precious, wonderful, human beings, and they bring such a life to a family. They bring such an opportunity to a family. And as we've heard many stories, about, we had our daughter for 6 years, but she changed our lives so much. She brought such joy. Our son lived to be, 15. I have an uncle, that's now in his late 70s, that in today's climate, my grandfather would have been probably very much pressured, to have an abortion. And yet this wonderful man has traveled around with the world. He has sung for different presidents of the United States personally in his cohort. He has done things I will never do. Wow. And his contribution to life is remarkable and wonderful. And it taught our family how to love, how to care, how to be patient, how to be tender, how to be concerned about another human being. There's so much for us to learn and not be afraid of. And I think that really is the issue, Colleen, for so many. It's fear. And especially when you hear your doctor or your caregiver immediately push, it pushes fear. And instead of, we're going to be here for you.
Well, there's no hope in it.
Right.
It's just saying, oh, there's this problem and this is a solution when it's not a solution. And sometimes it is like a physical problem, but I think really so often we impose an idea of what we think suffering is onto those people. Like,
Correct.
I know for a bunch of people who have Down syndrome and they're so happy. Like we take our idea of, oh, I wouldn't want to go through that, and we impose it on them when you don't know what they want. You don't know how happy they're going to be. They're probably happier than I am, honestly, or you or many people. If you look at the averages of people with Down syndrome that are happy versus the national average, I'm pretty sure that one's higher. So it's so easy to impose this idea of what we think suffering is onto them when we don't
and
know.
the very fact that that people, hear from the narrative of a very secular world, it's an inconvenience. And again, when we have that mindset, that framework, it does affect, decision making. And that's why it's important what you just said. And that is, we have to see the beauty, the wonder, the uniqueness that this wonderful individual brings to our family, to our culture, to our society.